All three?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Breaking 90 podcast. I am your host, Alex Harriman. This is my co-host, Jerrika and Alex. We are the coaches of Breaking 90 Fitness. Thanks for listening. Jer, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. What's up in Sudbury today?
In Sudbury, not a whole lot, actually. We just kind of getting into the swing of things. Spartan's coming up, and I just kind of wanted to start bugging you about it. I'm assuming you're not doing it this year, but
yeah, are you going to do the Spartan?
Yeah. We're a bunch of us are doing the trifecta again
in Blue Mountain.
Right up the mountain this year. So it's not in the Highlands.
Super cool. I've had a couple people asking me about it, and I'm not doing it. Just like for a couple of reasons. Like, honestly, my ankle now is feeling better than it has this entire year. I'm feeling good. I'm training hard. I'm doing a lot of rowing, but I've been doing zero running. So that's
what I figured.
the first reason is that I don't want to risk re-injury, although I think I would be okay. Maybe not with one of the longer distance races, but certainly a 5K. But the second reason is that I'm just truthfully not conditioned for it, and I would be disappointed in myself to go out there and do a piss poor job.
Yeah, mentally, you would just be upset with yourself.
Yeah.
But Spartan is a running race. Like, it's nothing. I mean, the obstacles sometimes are 2-3 minutes max, right? So if you haven't been running, it's not worth it.
Yeah, and I haven't, and I kind of started running, and it was the only thing that still didn't feel great was running. And then as the weather got cooler and everything, I was like, you know what, I'll just do my conditioning on the rower.
You've never been a winter runner.
So it's not looking like I'll be doing any Spartans this year, to answer your question. But I'm curious to hear, how's your training going?
So far so good. The gym stuff, well, I had previously hurt my back, so that's, I guess, getting a little bit better. So, but with running, I have no pain. So it's basically the only thing I have been able to do. And I mean, hanging from monkey bars also doesn't cause any pain. So the two of them, Spartan training is kind of, I guess, best case scenario for a back injury right now.
Will you compete in age category or open? Or
I am. Yeah, I'm going to go age category. And
cool.
The goal, I'll try to really push on the sprint and super this year and take it a little bit easier on the beast.
Nice. One of my good friends is doing the series across Canada. So he just went out and competed in somewhere near British Columbia. I forget exactly where it was, but he came like 10th in that race through it in the elite category through a time penalty. So he was actually supposed to come like 5th or 6th, and the time penalty bumped him back to 10th. So pretty cool. It's exciting. I'm really curious to hear.
That's the goal. The goal will be elite next year, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear how you're doing, and hopefully I can keep up with you next year.
I'll have to swing by your neck of the woods and grab some more B90 swag.
Yeah, we just got some new stickers and magnets.
I'll definitely do that.
All right, cool. What topic do you have for us today?
Okay, I want to talk about, I guess I'll call it diets. We'll call it what they are, right? Different diets. From a fat loss standpoint only. So kind of like the big ones that are out there, we'll kind of touch on maybe 4 or 5 of them, and just why they might be beneficial, why they might be more difficult from a fat loss standpoint.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's important too that you highlighted from fat loss standpoint, because a lot of people will mention like from health standpoints, and there's a ton of different health benefits to different things and different foods and drinks. And at the end of the day, we could give you some information on that, but we aren't experts at absolutely everything. Like our expertise is in fat loss and helping people make transformation changes. So where, for example, there's been some health benefits to something like dark chocolate or red wine in moderation, they can be counterproductive in a fat loss standpoint if they're putting you into a caloric surplus. So I think it's really important that we differentiate when we talk about something for fat loss and when we're talking about something for health related purposes.
Exactly. And I don't feel as though I'm an expert, talking about a diet that might benefit certain hormones or things like that. So we'll just keep it what we know, and we'll just touch on them briefly.
So for anybody who's listening to us and wants to yell at us because we didn't touch on something from a health standpoint, that's the reason why.
Yes, I wanted to make that disclaimer. I should also
Cool.
make a disclaimer that I am not sponsored by Spartan.
Not yet.
Not yet,
Not
not yet.
not
Maybe
yet.
one day.
Hopefully they'll hear this and they'll hit us up.
Please, please. All
All
right.
right.
The first one that comes to mind, and I think that's one of the biggest ones out there probably right now, would be we'll start with intermittent fasting.
Good. Yeah,
Um,
I wrote down a couple too, so that's one of the ones I had. So intermittent fasting, cool. Start us off.
So for people who don't know what intermittent fasting is it's typically a window. You have two different windows: an eating window and a fasting window. There's common hours that people eat and don't eat, but I mean we can really kind of play around with. I think that really common one is 16 and 8. Is
Yeah,
that the
that's the
most
most
common?
common.
So
Hmm.
most people will fast for 16 hours and then eat for 8 hours. And the biggest pro, I would say, from a fat loss standpoint for doing intermittent fasting is you have a smaller eating window. Therefore, you're likely eating less calories than you normally would in a full day, full window of eating.
Yeah. Another like model of fasting that isn't is some people will actually like not eat for an entire day so that they can eat more over 6 days. Or even they'll do the 16 and 8 like Jerrika mentioned, but not do it every day. So for instance, maybe like 5 days a week. So there's all different types of intermittent fasting. But that's definitely the most common, 16 and 8. I I think it can be beneficial for a lot of people, but I'm going to counter you with a con to
Okay.
intermittent fasting then. So one of the cons that I often see is that people get to their eating window and they're so hungry that they let loose. So it's like, say at noon your window stops and that's when you allow yourself to eat. They go crazy for that next 8 hours or even just the first hour of that 8 hours, and then it wasn't really worth it because at the end of the day we still have to create that caloric deficit, and if you're eating more in that 8 hours than you create your caloric deficit, then it's not worth it.
I completely agree. It's common because, let's say we start our first meal at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 o'clock. In all reality, you've really only taken out breakfast, right? So you
Yeah.
haven't eaten your breakfast type meal, which might be anywhere from, let's say, 300 to 500 calories. So it's not that many calories that you just avoided by not eating breakfast. So when you get to your eating window, that maybe 12 to 8 window, you can easily, very quickly, make up that 300 calories, maybe 3 handfuls of trail mix, and there was your breakfast. So people, yeah, they think they can eat more, more at that time, but really it's very easy to get that calorie goal, I guess.
Yeah. That's a huge point. I want to actually highlight one of the pros that I find with intermittent fasting too, and the one that I find even more than just the fact of a fat loss standpoint is that it's just it. I guess it still relates to fat loss, but it takes your mind out of the equation. So you don't have to stress over. A lot of people have a lot of stress over what am I going to have for breakfast? What am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner? And when you don't have to eat as frequently, it's just like, oh, well, now I just don't eat during this period. So it allows you to focus on the other things in your life, your workouts, your work, or whatever other priorities you have lined up. And then you only have to really worry about your 8 hours of eating, which is typically less meals in general.
And for a lot of people, I mean, despite the initial fast, a lot of people don't even get hungry, right? A lot of people, it's common that people aren't hungry at breakfast time. And then the nice thing about fasting, why I like it, because I love the feeling of fullness, right? So when if I'm eating two big meals during that, I feel very full and very satisfied for a long period of time. If I eat at 1 o'clock, I eat a large meal and I'll feel full again until that 5, 6 o'clock and have another large meal and feel full till the next day. So it's almost like, and it's also a time saver, like you said. Whereas if you're eating, 5 small meals, you might never get that feeling of fullness. And to some people, they like it, and some people they don't. And that's why it's definitely that option, depending on who you are.
Yeah. Yeah. For myself, I like it on days where I'm not training in the morning. So I do it if I'm not training in the morning, then I'll often just go till lunch and eat then. And then on days where I am training, I like to eat near my training, so I'll have a meal
Yep.
after. So and that kind of circles back to what I said. You have to figure out what works for you. There's no magic to your frequency or anything. Do what makes sense for you, and do what you can make progress with when we're talking about fat loss.
Perfect. The next one I want to touch on, I think that's also another big one that's been out for years. And from a
I
fat
just
loss
I just lost connection there for a second. What did you say? Keto?
I did the
Okay,
ketogenic diet. Can you hear
that's
me
what I
now?
figured. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right. It was right as you
That's
said
been a
that
big
word. I
one.
was like, I'm assuming she said keto, but I missed it. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
It's definitely been a big one the last few years. And from a fat loss standpoint solely, the pro would be that because you're removing an entire food group, right? Basically removing carbs, for fat loss, it'll be likely easier that you're eating less calories because you now aren't having the grains and etc.
Yeah, so
So it's easier.
any diet that works effectively for fat loss creates that calorie deficit. It puts us into a position where we're eating less calories than we're burning. So intermittent fasting removes a period of time that we're eating, so that's likely to make us eat less. Keto removes one of our three macronutrients. So we've got protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Those are our three macronutrients. We remove one of those, we're just likely to eat less. Is it possible to eat more? Well, yeah, absolutely it is. If you eat a ton of high calorie fats like bacons and nuts and things like that, you're still going to pile up calories really quickly, and you're not going to lose weight. I won't get into cons yet. If there's anything you wanted to add to pros.
That was the main pro I had for sure for that one.
All right. So one thing I want to highlight that a lot of people experience with keto. So we've talked about water retention a lot in the past. One of the things that makes us retain a lot of water is carbohydrates. Retaining water isn't a bad thing. It's a normal bodily function. But when we remove carbohydrates from our diet, we often lose a lot of that water retention. So when you go on a keto-based diet and you remove the carbohydrates, a lot of people see a lot of weight loss because they're not retaining as much water. Okay, so a lot of people would counter the fact that, well, no, I'm still eating tons of calories and I'm losing weight. Well, at first that might be the case, but it's probably a lot of it is probably water weight at first. So you need to really look at a large sample of time to know whether something's working for you, because the initial sample is never going to be that accurate, because you always have to factor in any changes to water retention.
That's a really good point. And another con, you briefly touched on it, is that fats have a higher caloric value per gram, right? So when we're eating a higher fat diet, we're likely to consume more calories throughout the day. So watching your portions would be a really big one on the ketogenic diet.
Yeah, it is easy, and even from a nutrient standpoint, like a lot of our, well, if depending on the level of extremeness that people take their keto diet to, they often won't allow fruits or vegetables, which carry a lot of our minerals and vitamins and nutrients. So without that, you need to consider supplementation and where you're going to get some of these different nutrients from. It's really easy to just follow a diet for the sake of following a diet, but you need to make sure that you're still getting your complete nutrient panel. And if you're going to be removing most of your fruits and vegetables, then that's going to be one obstacle also.
I have another con. I'm not trying to hate on it, but I do have another con, would be from a fat loss standpoint. I find that people on ketogenic diets struggle when it comes to unplanned events or social gatherings, because typically at these events there are more carbohydrate based food items out. So then let's say they go and, okay, I'm not going to eat keto tonight, I'm going to have a ton of whatever's on the table. Then you're going to see, like we talked about, carbs retain water. You'll see an insane spike the next day, and it'll be kind of like, oh my God, I'm blaming the carbs that I gained a bunch of weight. But in all reality, you're just retaining water. And sometimes it makes it difficult at these social events to maintain this diet, in quotations, that you're on from a fat loss standpoint.
Yeah, I guess my final words on this would be, if you don't think you could do it forever, it's probably not worth spending too much time trying it. The short-term fixes are never going to work because you always have to revert back to a lifestyle that you can live with forever. It is completely possible to lose weight and to lose fat with all three macronutrients. So you need to be very realistic with yourself about whether or not you want to live without an entire macronutrient.
Perfect. I like it.
Okay, what's next?
I guess I kind of put like if it fits your macros, like macro tracking, if
Cool.
that makes sense. So kind of like flexible eating whatever you want as long as it fits your macros.
Yep.
So the pro to this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'll just give people a brief overview. So if you haven't counted macros before, so it touches, just like we said, so you've got your proteins, carbs, and fats, which all create your calories. So to create a caloric deficit, we have to be under the calories we're burning. We have to eat less calories than we're burning. Those calories break into proteins, carbs, and fats. So if it fits your macro diet or macro counting, some people have probably used MyFitnessPal. You have a goal for all three macronutrients that you're trying to hit regularly every day or every week. Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. So the benefit to doing this is you have the flexibility, right? So, if I want to have a massive breakfast, I just punch it into MyFitnessPal, and I could be out with friends, but as long as I'm punching it in, at the end, I'm trying to hit that goal at the end of the day. So it allows for a lot of freedom in the foods that you're eating. But that could also be a really big con in the sense that you might be filling those macros all day with chips and candy because it fits in your macros. So it could be really it could be great because it allows you to have a lot of freedom, but it can also be really difficult because you're not going to get a ton of great whole nutrients if you're eating it. They call it like dirty is the sound is because it's more like candy and chips based.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely a place for some of those foods, but what you're going to notice is, although you're hitting your macros, you will still lose weight. If you're hitting your macros, you're going to lose weight. But you might not feel as good. You might not perform as well in your exercise, things like that. You might not sleep as well, not recover as well. So long term, that could certainly affect your weight loss if you're not able to exercise to the same capacity or recover to the same capacity. I think that this is probably the most sustainable route for a lot of people on the popular market out there, other than the fact that it's tedious, right? It does allow the level of freedom that I think most people need to succeed, but it is very tedious. Most people, unless they're athletes or they have very specific goals or ambitions, aren't going to realistically weigh things, measure things, and record everything they eat forever. So that's my thoughts on that one.
Right. And that's a big point is for this, you typically, to be as accurate as possible, you got to have that food scale with you. And that's what makes it really challenging for a lot of people. Now, we obviously kind of coach a version of this in the sense that we use our palms and things like that to make it a little bit more accessible because we always have that with us versus carrying a scale around, which, like you said, it allows that freedom for everybody in their life, which is awesome. And I think everyone should try it. But the scale could be very restrictive unless you're an athlete and things like that. You don't need to be necessarily super precise.
Yeah, I agree with all that for sure. I think we've done a good touch on that one. Which one do you have next?
I kind of just listened. Do you have any more that you thought?
Yeah, well, there's plant-based has become really popular. Okay. So plant-based is the idea of eating more plant-based items. More foods from earth, more foods from natural sources, and I think this has become really popularized from a lot of documentaries and different celebrities lately. A lot of people cite making a ton of progress as soon as they go plant-based, and I think the really important thing to highlight here was that person eating like shit before they started becoming plant-based, or were they already eating really well before they became plant-based? Because those are two very different comparisons. If you're eating not a great diet and then all of a sudden you only eat plant-based foods, you're going to make a ton of progress. Do I think adding something like a lean piece of chicken or tuna or something to a plant-based diet is going to slow you down or affect you? No, I don't. I think it's probably going to benefit you because it's one of the really big struggles with plant-based is getting in your protein without eating too many calories. What are
That's
your thoughts
a
on
really,
it?
that's a really good point. So I absolutely think plant-based is awesome because it provides so many whole nutrients and, can really affect energy levels and make you feel great. But sometimes it's difficult, like you said, with getting the protein in. And what ends up happening is when we're plant-based, we have to get a complete protein. We might need to pull different types of foods to make that complete protein. And with those different foods and those proteins in there comes other calories, right? So that's where it's a little bit easier to maybe overeat when we're trying to hit a protein goal, because there's no, let's say, specific lean. I mean, tofu is great too, but it's more difficult to get that whole
It
complete
is
protein in
for
there. Yeah,
sure. It is for sure because most people aren't going to only eat things like tofu, tempeh, or seitan, which are like
right.
the three really big vegetarian protein sources. So then you start to look at things like beans, lentils, legumes, and chickpeas, which are all pretty high in protein. Quinoa is another one.
Mm-hmm.
But to get enough protein, you're going to need to eat way more calories than a comparison of like chicken breast or tuna or something along those lines. So what you'll see is a lot of athletes and bigger people can do it more successfully because they have more calorie room to play with, right? So somebody who's athletic, who's burning a ton of calories, might have like 3 or 4 thousand calories a day to play with. Well, it doesn't matter if they get a little bit extra with their sources of protein. The average person who's just trying to lose weight and needs to be in a calorie deficit and sitting around like 1,800 calories, well, now all of a sudden that those protein sources leave you with like no extra wiggle room to have anything else important in your diet because most of your calories are being completed just from your protein sources.
Perfect. Absolutely. That that was the main one. I mentioned paleo from a few years ago. Paleo is basically plant-based with whole or complete protein. So like your red meats and your chickens and things like that.
Yeah,
Um,
paleo and even just like the whole food diet or the whole
yeah.
30, like those are popular ones too. I don't think we need to dig as deep
Oh,
into
I
them
don't think
because
so.
they're not as popular anymore, but there's good and bad concepts from everything.
Yep.
Um, for them to work effectively, you need to be in a calorie deficit and it's okay to try something, see if you like it, but you need to be realistic. Can I do this forever? Is this sustainable for me? Or am I going to make quick results early on because of the restrictiveness and then fall off the wagon because it was too strict to stick to?
I
Too
think that's
strict to stick to.
I think that's the biggest take home message. And but taking tidbits from each to figure out what works best for you. Like you said, one day you might be fasting because that's when you feel best. The next day you might have a day where you aren't having a ton of protein, just because you know what I mean. You can play around with what works for you and what you like. And as long as at the end of the day you're eating less than you're burning in from a fat loss standpoint, which is what we're focusing on. That's your best bet.
I
That's the
think
bottom
most
line.
people understand what they need to do. We know we need to eat more vegetables, more protein, move more, drink more water, eat less food in general. Most people understand those concepts, but they like to have guidelines or something that holds them to it because just to say those things, most of us understand that, but without guidelines or rules or something to follow, it becomes difficult for some people. So it's finding a set of rules or guidelines for yourself that you can stick to.
Yeah, and it's not flashy, right? Like what
Yeah.
you just listed, it's exactly what we need to do, but it's not flashy. It doesn't have, the cool protein powder. It doesn't have this. It doesn't. It's
Yeah.
just it's boring, but it's the
Yeah.
bottom line.
Yeah.
You don't belong to this group or you're not relating to this person, but at the end of the day, that's exactly what you need to do.
For sure. For sure. Um, I think we've covered tons there.
Mhm.
Obviously, if anybody's curious about any other diets or our take on anything else, reach out to us and we can dig into that a bit more with you. But I think those are the main ones and the hot topics lately. Um, do you have a nutrition or a kitchen tip?
It kind of goes off of what we were chatting about, but I just want to touch on oils when we're cooking with oils in the kitchen. I think so often when we're cooking, we just pour in a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, who knows, of oils to cook. But in reality, that's 200 extra calories that I just cooked my chicken in. And people aren't, whether you're tracking or whether you're writing it down or what have you, it's still 200 calories. And if I'm doing that over the course of the week or 2 weeks, that's an extra pound, right there. So just be mindful of your oils. I always suggest using sprays. If you certain like avocado oil sprays or coconut oil sprays, it goes so fast that I don't even count those because it's um, very minimal. And just be mindful of the fats in these oils.
I think that's one thing that most people don't count is oils in general, because they're like, well, I put it in the pan, not all of it stuck to my meat. Some of it stayed in the pan, which is true. So I don't really know how much I ate of it, so I didn't count it. And I think it's something that can be a very sneaky
Mm-hmm.
amount of calories. It is hard to count too. I don't know what the right answer for everybody is, but I think you do need to count it in some manner, and you need to be very realistic with it. If I use a tablespoon of oil across 4 servings of vegetables, I'll still count a quarter of that oil, even though some of it stays in the pan. Like it's unfortunately, it's one of those things that's going to be impossible to fully monitor.
And sometimes it's better to even overestimate a little bit
Totally,
because in reality, you're probably underestimating something else.
totally.
So it ends up balancing out at the end of the day.
Even the nutrition labels on packages only need to be within 20%
Right.
accuracy. So if you factor that in, one day you might be 20% higher than you thought you were, and one day you might be 20% lower. So making sure that you're at least adding something for the oil is definitely going to matter in the long run.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. As always, leave us your comments, share this with your friends, take a screenshot, share it to Instagram. Let us know what you think. And we love hearing the feedback. We appreciate you being here. Have a great day.